Hi everyone, my name is Phil and welcome to Phil Does 3D. I'm a multimedia and 3D artist and I stream on Twitch weekdays from 5 PM Pacific time in the US, 10 AM in Australia and 1 AM in the UK. It's always good to see you too, Sniper Echo, so thanks for popping into chat and saying hello. And good to hear that everything's going well with you. It's pretty cold here at the moment, but I prefer that to the really hot weather we had 4 or 5 months ago. Nothing a nice hot coffee can't fix. So, we are working on an Art Deco building that we're going to be creating in the Unreal Engine. Now, I did update the Unreal Engine last night to 4.16, which is the newest version from Epic Games, and transferred my project over. Now they've updated the volumetric fog. I'm not going to turn that on just yet. We'll turn that on a little bit later on once we finish setting up the rest of our cinematic fly-through. Because I've got to play with the values a bit. It comes in quite strong initially, so we won't turn it on initially. But what we're going to be doing is we're going to continue working on our Art Deco building. We'll continue setting that up in Unreal, the outside anyway, at the moment, but we will be doing a fly-through where we go inside the building. So we've been setting up our environment here in Unreal. Again, all of these trees are actually wind animated. They're not moving because I can't turn on real-time preview with OBS at the moment because it drops frames for some reason. I don't know what's going on there. Something to do with the new Windows 10 update, I'm assuming. The creators update or whatever they're calling it. But all of our trees and bushes and plants and stuff will be moving in the wind, or do move in the wind. So that'll help to add a bit of life here to our cinematic as we fly through. So again, we're just going to go back to the beginning here. So our camera will be starting at the front here. We'll be flying through our gate, down along our path, up over our terrace, up over our second terrace, until we get to our Art Deco building. And this is what we were working on yesterday. Again, I've angled the building here so it creates a nice silhouette for the camera when we get to this point in the cinematic. So I haven't put the building front on, I've given it a nice angle here so it's more interesting to look at. And we're going to continue on fixing up our building today. So we got the exterior shell done and some of the interior shells done here. We are going to be filling up the interior with assets, so paneling for the walls, stairwells, carpets, all that sort of good stuff. But what we're going to do today, I think, is we'll bring in the windows. We'll start bringing the windows in. So let's jump into Max. Now again, I just want to explain here, these windows are going to look different in Unreal because I'm actually going to be using a glass shader in Unreal. So if I jump back into Unreal again and go to my glass material here, window pane, we're actually going to be using a proper glass material in Unreal for our windows. And I've created one that's just a little bit dirty. I wanted it to look old and worn and dirty, so that's what we're going to be doing. We're actually going to be using a shader that simulates glass, which means it's going to look different from our model here in Max because that's just a texture. But that's okay. Let's start with these wooden window frames, I think. Now, they're all one object here in Max, and I could bring it in like that, but you're using more memory than you actually need by doing it that way. A better way to do it is just to take one of these, well, just a couple of these window frames, like the ones at the front are different from the ones at the side, and the square ones are different as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to take one of the round ones from the front and we're going to duplicate it for the front and the back. We're going to take one of these round ones from the side and we're going to duplicate them all around the side. And we'll take one of the long ones and one of the broader rectangles and we're going to duplicate those. Doing it that way will use the least amount of memory and It's just a better way to go. Do remember, guys, if you have any questions or anything you're not sure about, please feel free to pop into chat and ask me. If you just want to pop in and say hi like Sniper Echo does, that's always welcome. I always love chatting to you guys. If you just want to watch though, that's completely fine. So I'm just selecting that and I'm going to detach it. And then we'll just call it front round window. It's not actually round, but we'll call it round anyway. And let's select it. And actually, before we export it, let's just make sure our pivot is at the center. And we're also just going to do a reset on the X-form. And that'll make sure our mesh is all good to go to take into Unreal. So let's export that now. I think we'll create a separate folder actually. We'll call it Windows. This helps to keep everything nice and tidy and easy to find this way, as opposed to jumbling everything up in one directory. We'll call it front round window. Okay. Let's jump back into Unreal. Now, I'm going to import my window into my building subfolder here. But remember, we turned on an option yesterday when we imported the building to do with the pivot position. We're going to change that in just a sec. So, let's just find our folder. Windows. Front round window, that's the one we want. Now, again, it's a new install of Unreal. We're working with 4.16 now, so I've just got to reorient myself here because everything's changed a little bit. Okay, so transform vertex to absolute. We had that turned on when we brought the building in because we wanted that at the 0, 0, 0 world position. We don't want that with the window, so I'm going to turn that off. Okay, now I'm just going to swap out that texture that it brought in because we've already got one created for the building. We'll use the building one. I'm just going to find the right one. This is a bit odd. I'm just going to go through my materials here to see what's going on. Yeah, we're not using that one. Pardon me, guys. We're not using that one. I'm just going to have to go through my materials here and delete a few of them. This is the one we're actually using. Yep. So, again, I'm just going to find my window frame. And we're going to swap out that texture for one we've already created for the building. It's just the one for the building already has a normal map assigned to it. And an occlusion map and that type of thing, so that should be good. Let's just save that. Back to our building assets, back to our window, and let's pull that in. Now remember, we scaled our building up, so we're going to have to scale our assets up here as we start placing them. Let's start by rotating it. Now we can scale it. I may have to turn some of these angle snaps and things off. Again, because it's a new install, it defaults to turning all those on, and And while they can help you in your positioning of your assets, sometimes they can get in the way. So I am actually going to switch them all. Looks like our window needs to be scaled up a little bit more. Not too much though. I may jump into the top viewport to do this. We'll see how we go. Once we get the scale of one of them correct, then we're going to be duplicating it for the rest of the windows at the front, so we only have to fiddle with it for one of the assets at a time. Our camera is also never really going to be this close to the window, so I think we might be okay. I'm just going to jump inside here and have a look. Now, the reason that looks that way is because remember when we did the export of the outside walls, we removed the inside polygons to save on polygon memory when we were in max. So the outside red brick, the back polys have been deleted. That's why it doesn't look like it fits, but it does. And because we're fixing it from the front here, not from the inside. We're going to have frames and things around the window and curtains, so long as it looks right from the front, then we should be good. Okay, so we have our window frame in place. I'm just going to deselect it there. I'll just double check it again from down a bit lower. Make sure it's angled correctly. I think maybe we can rotate it around a bit more. That should be good. I just wanted to make sure it was square to the front edge there. Alright, so now that we have the window frame in place, let's place a piece of glass behind it so that way I can create a blueprint. It'll make it easier then for me to move it around. So let's go to our glass object. We'll do the same thing, we're just going to rotate it around. And scale it up. And again, I'm just going to make sure that the rotation on that is correct. And I think we may move it back behind the frame. Actually, it might already be behind the frame. I'm just looking at our window here and I'm noticing it looks to me like the normals have been inverted. I'm just going to jump back into our actual window frame mesh. Yeah, it looks like during the export the normals have been flipped. We have that problem occasionally with Max. So let's just jump quickly back into 3D Studio Max, back into our asset, and I'm just going to do a flip on the normals. I'm also going to unify the normal. And we'll export our model one more time. Okay, and let's just re-import that mesh. There we go. I thought it was looking a bit odd before. That looks a bit better. Alright. Now I've just got to make sure that my window glass here is positioned correctly. And I think I'll bring the glass in a little bit, so it sits within our window frame itself. I didn't want to move it. I'm just checking our window to make sure now that the normals have been flipped back the correct way that it is sitting correctly. And I'm just looking at the window frame itself because it looks like it's on a little angle. I'm not sure why I would have done that. I think what we might do is rotate that window a little bit. The frame looks like it's on a slight angle. In fact, what I may do is actually pull that out completely and do it outside of the window frame. I'm just going to select them both and move it out. And that way I can get a better idea of what's going on. Yeah, I think actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate the glass in the frame a little bit. It doesn't need much, just a touch. Alright, now let's move the glass actually inside the frame. Alright. No, we won't worry about these corners, they're going to be hidden inside of the wall itself. So now that we have the glass actually positioned within the frame of the window, we can select them both and create a blueprint. And we'll call it front round window. Prefab. And we're going to save it in our blueprints folder. Alright, now let's move that window back into position. We'll duplicate it and pull it along to the other side. Okay, now we have the back of the building to do, so let's duplicate it one more time and move it to the back. Gonna pull it out to the side here for a minute. I have to rotate it around 180 degrees. And let's move it to the back of our building. Again, doing this in the top viewport would probably be easier, but it's a little bit more boring to look at, so we'll do it this way.
Just because you had the last word doesn't mean I won't get stronger.
I may just rotate that around a little bit. Is this for mobile? No, crosswind. It's I'm doing a cinematic, so we're going to be creating a cinematic in Unreal Engine 4.15. We've been working on the environment at the moment, just getting the outside little grove here created correctly. We still have to work on that. We haven't finished the yard in front of the building yet. That's the main entrance where the camera will start. And then we jump down into the little path behind that gate. Thanks Crosswind. Yeah, so it's cinematic. So we're going to fly our camera down here, down our garden path, until we get to our Art Deco building. And in the Art Deco building, we're going to be flying the camera inside the building and back out again. So at this stage, we're just setting up the actual outside of the building, and then we'll start working on the inside of the building as well. And that's just another terrace here. So the camera flies through until it gets to our building, and then it will actually fly inside the building and back out again. So yeah, not a game, not for mobile, just a cinematic. It's because I created a version of this back in 2011 using the UDK. I'll just run through that. I'll pass some concept art at the beginning here. So this was created 6 years ago. I'm recreating it now in the new version of the engine, so I can see what the differences in lighting and things are like. And you see this one is just sitting on a checkerboard floor, so I wanted to create a full-on environment for it. but this is the old version that was done 6 years ago in UDK, and we're going to be recreating it now in Unreal Engine 4.16 after we finish putting our assets inside the building itself. Again, because I'm interested to see the differences in lighting, so what I'm doing is I'm updating the assets, changing some of the textures, making some of the props, the assets a little bit higher polygon before we recreate our cinematic in UE4. So that's basically what we're doing. I think our window frame here needs to be rotated just a little bit. It looks like the angle here is a little off too, so I'm just going to do another rotation. Not that way. That way. Thank you, Crosswind. Yeah, no. I know what you're saying. This, I probably should retake this frame into Substance Painter to retexture it. Initially, like I said, I'm using assets I created 6 years ago in UDK. And to save on texture memory back then, I used the part of the texture I'm using for the building itself on the window frames. But you make a good point, and the camera's actually never going to go up anywhere near those windows, but retexturing them is an option, and it's something I still may do once we get the rest of the building fleshed out a bit more, because even though once we position this, it's not a big deal for us to retexture the model and re-import it. So yep, no problem. But you do make a good point. Again, I'm redoing the texturing on a lot of the models, but I haven't done the window frames themselves. I will probably end up taking it into Substance Painter and retexturing it and re-importing it once I get everything placed. Placing it first, I can see whether how it works, and if it doesn't work, I'm going to change it up just by changing up the texture. Yeah, not a mobile though. And again, all of our trees are wind animated. I have turned off the wind animation at the moment simply because OBS is having a few problems with keeping my frames per second when real time is turned on. Cool. Well, I like Substance Painter. I generally prefer to use Mari, M-A-R-I, by the Foundry, just because I like to get in there and paint my textures in, whereas, as you know, Substance Painter is more about physically based materials, texturing and using those. You can still paint on your texture in Substance, but it's and aimed more toward games development, whereas Mari is more towards film work, and I've done cinema work in the past. I used to work in games development as well. I'm an arch-viz artist now. But yeah, I like Mari. My preferred paint program is Mari, but Substance is very good, and I do use Substance. Yeah, Substance is good for this sort of work. So yeah, I do recommend you play with it, because it's an impressive program. It integrates with Unreal really well if you want to do some stuff with Unreal. Again, I should be doing this in the orthographic, in the top or side views, instead of here in the perspective view. It would make it easier, but hey, we'll continue on. Let's just duplicate that one more time. Crosswind says, yeah, Substance seems to be the go for the game, for games East. Yeah, I agree. It is. I think it is because it's very much, you can texture your stuff much more quickly in Substance Painter, or even Designer, Director. I can't remember what they call the other one. So it saves a lot of time for game studios. The only thing I don't like about Substance Painter or Substances is a lot of the models start to look the same, because they all use the same physically based materials, whether it's brass or car paint or whatever. You can, if you're not careful, all your models can start looking the same. So every game studio ends up, all their games start looking the same, regardless of who makes them. Because they use substance, they all use generators to do the wearing on, say, armor. So everything ends up looking the same. That's the only thing I don't like about Substance Painter. That's why I like to use Mari, because I like to get in there and paint with my tablet by hand. I enjoy that. I enjoy texture painting. Crosswind says, yeah, so many game engine pipelines seem to be implementing it. Yep, they do. Again, I think it's a time thing. It can save a lot of time. And you don't have to be so particular about the UV mapping on your model. It's a lot more forgiving. You know, in the olden days, when graphics cards were really small, we had to really worry about texture sizes and UV mapping and making sure that our UV maps were properly laid out. And it still helps to make sure your UVs are properly laid out, don't get me wrong. Crosswind says, last I sat down and seriously textured something, I used a Quixel suite. Yeah, no, a couple of the guys that pop into my channel use Quixel as well, and they swear by it. I haven't actually used Quixel myself. I must check it out. Is it good? Because, yeah, like I said, I know a few guys that pop into my channel use Quixel, but I haven't actually looked at it myself. Yeah, I've always used Mari. Was Quixel worth using or good? I know a few guys use 3D Code as well to do their texturing. If you do want to check out Mari though by the Foundry, they do have a free version you can download that's complete. It's not restricted. You just can't do anything commercial with it. Like you can't create a commercial project with it. But it's a personal learning edition that's not restricted in any way. You can download and try out. And it is a great program simply for the simple fact that you can use texture sizes that are huge. You know, we're talking as big as you want basically in Mari, so long as you have the graphics memory. Crosswind says, yeah, he thought it was incredible, and I think it was around slightly before Substance, which is how I started. Yeah, okay, cool. No, I think you're right. I think Quixel was around before Substance. I must really check it out, because I like to look at everything new coming along in the market, or even stuff that I'm just not sure about, because as a 3D artist, I like to keep up on everything that's available in case there's something better for the pipeline for the studio. So I'll check out Quixel myself. But again, if you did want to check out Mari, like I said, they do have a free version you can download from their website and use that's fully functional. Just don't make anything commercial with it. Just going to duplicate that window one more time so we can move it along. Do you work in 3D, Crosswind? Crosswind says, but I like the idea of substance design. Yeah, substance design is interesting. I think it's more in-depth of what you can make than with Quixel, but you also haven't played with Quixel Suite in a while, so they may have something to compete now. Yeah, well, that could be true. Like, again, I don't know Quixel. I do want to check it out. Substance Designer is very powerful. It's very fiddly. Oh, you're just a hobbyist. Okay, cool. Yeah, no, Substance Designer is good. I mean, and again, Substance Designer is the one you use to create the substances that you bring into Substance Painter then to use, or you use them directly from Substance Designer. I'm actually using substances for the terrain around the outside here. So I have the Substance plugin installed for Unreal, again, which you download from Epic. It's free from the marketplace. If I jump into my textures, I think it is. Where are we? Yeah. Is it in my textures? Actually, it's in my terrain folder. I'm using the Substance plugin to actually create my substances for the terrain. And it's really good because you can change it up on the fly, so you don't have to keep exporting out texture maps and re-importing them to change something. You do it all through the plugin here. So it really saves a lot of time that way too, if you want to use substances in Unreal. Again though, Substance Designer is not a program I've played with a lot, and it can be very fiddly. There are some things in Substance Painter that I don't like. I don't like their interface to change stuff up. It's really weird. Everything seems backwards. Like in most programs you go from 0 to 1. In Substance Painter you go from 1 to 0. The sliders seem backwards to me. Simply from coming from a Max, because I'm a 3D Studio Max user, I'm used to their sort of interface. And while Substance's interface is nice and clean, which I really like, yeah, their sliders all seem to be backwards. So it can get a bit confusing. Alright, so we have our glass shader in our window frames, but as Crosswind was saying, the window frames do look a bit low poly. Again, the building itself as well, we're never really going to get very close to it. We're going to be flying through the actual door. And we could update the texturing on the building, but I think for what we're doing, it'll be okay. We're going to be flying our camera around the outside of it before we sort of zoom in through one of the doors. Again, probably the same thing for the window frames. We're not going to see them any closer than from down here. But I may retexture them anyway. We'll see how we go. We'll get some more windows in and we'll take it from there. So they're the round windows. Let's take in some of these square windows now. And again, even though these are all one object, and I could have brought them in that way, it's better to bring them in as separate objects and duplicate them to use less memory. Even though I'm doing a cinematic and I don't really have to worry about memory usage too much, it's just a good habit to get into anyway. Particularly if you're making a game, because you want to make sure you save as much memory as you can. Particularly if you're doing a mobile game. Let's detach this one. We'll call it front small rect wind. Was front small rectangle window. Let's export that. And let's bring it into our project here. Now again, remember when we brought the building in, we wanted it at 0, 0, so I turned transform vertex off, turned it on, sorry. I'm turning it off here because I don't want it at 0, 0, 0 well position. Hey Winter PT, how's things? Thanks for popping into chat and saying hello. Your next project's going to be a modular scene? Cool. And by modular, I'm assuming you mean the same sort of thing we're doing with the building, where you're going to, you're creating assets that you can then keep duplicating around to create your project. I'm assuming that's what you mean by modular. Oh, now this is a problem we had here because I forgot to do a reset on the X-form. So I'm going to jump back in here and make sure my pivot is actually in the middle of the object. That would help. And do a reset on the X-form. We may have to do an invert of the normal as well. We'll see how we go. Let's re-export that one more time.